Okay, this video is for the purpose of documenting what changes I've made to the control module on my prototype Tascam 12x8 console so that I don't have to spend the time to write it all down and don't have to tear the control module apart to remember what I did after I put it back together. So starting with the balance amp PCBs, besides throughout the module, besides recapping and various repairs to solder joints and wires and cleaning the balance amp PCBs, I've put metal film resistors in place of the stock carbon film resistors in the feedback loops of the output driver op amps, and socketed and put in OPA 2134 op amps there. The feedback loop caps are nice polystyrene parts, so I left those as is. The test oscillator PCB, it looks like I socketed and replaced this logic chip. I don't remember what was going on there. I must have been having some switching problems. So looks like that got replaced. Way back when there was a problem with the oscillator not working in all bands, and so all of the resistors were replaced with metal film parts in place of the carbon film parts, and the driver chip, it's a TL072, but replaced the original JRC part with a genuine Texas Instruments part and socketed. And these are the LM386 chips for the headphone amp. Those are new TI parts, socketed. In the studio PCB, let's see, the left stereo fader booster op amp stock was a 5532. I replaced that with a new TI 5532 part and socketed that, and put a small value ceramic bypass on the power inputs to that, just in case I want to try something more wild later on. Didn't do anything with U6, that's the peak LED driver. Let's see, replaced, oh, and yeah, the other thing I did here with the fader booster is replaced the ceramic feedback cap and carbon film feedback resistor with a new cog ceramic part and metal film resistor. U4, so polystyrene caps for the feedback loop, so I left those as is, but replaced the feedback loop resistors with metal film parts. U4 is, that's an interstage op amp for the studio bus, not critical, not a critical bus, so I left that as TL072. And U3, that's the output booster, output driver for the studio bus. Again, not critical, left that as is. What do we have here? That, oh, that is U2. That is a unity gain input buffer amp for the extra in 1 or extra in 2 inputs. I left that as is. That would just be used for monitoring, like A/B monitoring or something not critical. So I just left that as is. That's an 072 also. Over here, this is U1, and that is the echo return op amp. Again, polystyrene caps for the feedback loop caps, left those as is, but replaced the carbon film resistors with metal film parts, socketed, and replaced the stock 4556 op amp with a 2134. And this also has the small value ceramic cap, bypass cap on the power inputs to that op amp. Okay, and then next up is the control room PCB. Similar situation here. This is the right stereo, the right channel of the stereo bus. The output, this is a fader input buffer and output booster, just like on the studio PCB, but for the right channel. Same thing, replace the feedback loop, the original ceramic disc cap with a cog ceramic part and the carbon film feedback loop resistor with a metal film part, socketed, bypass the power inputs with a small value ceramic, and put a new TI 5532 there in place of the original JRC part, and have the power input bypass in case I want to try something faster there at some point. Then here, so U5, same thing. That's just a peak LED driver. Didn't do anything there. Here, U3 is, this is the interstage op amp for the control room bus. That's more critical. That's what the control room bus is what feeds the studio monitors. That originally was, I think, yeah, that was a TL082, and I replaced that with an OPA 2134 socketed, bypassed the power inputs with a small value cog ceramic, nice polystyrene caps for the feedback loop caps, so left those as is, but replaced the feedback loop resistors with new metal film parts. Jumping over to this unlabeled op amp. Originally, this op amp, I have no idea what it was because there was no screening left on it, or never was any on it. But it was a very strange installation of that op amp on the back side of the control room interstage op amp with all sorts of jank all over the place. I removed that and sketched out what it was doing and relocated it to an open DIP8 site on this board. This does all look a little janky, but it's less janky than it was, and now it's properly mounted in the board. This is the control room mono summing amp. There's a mono function, and this is a summing amp for that mono function. So this is an identical OPA 2134, socketed, power inputs bypassed with a small value cog ceramic. I think that's all that's going on there, but that's what these other jumper wires have to do with, is getting that over from here where it was on the back side of the control room interstage. Op amp U3. Let's see, U2 right there. That is the control room output driver. That was 4556. I replaced that also with an OPA 2134. Some large Mylar blob caps for the feedback loop caps, and those are fine. Left those as is. No resistors. This is a unity gain output driver, I believe. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, that's just a unity gain driver. But put the 2134 part in there. And then over here, U1, that's another input buffer amp, unity gain buffer amp for one of the other two extra inputs. I don't remember which one is on which board, but the studio PCB and the control room PCB have these op amps on them. One of them is extra in 1, one of them is extra in 2. There's a TI TL072 there. I'm just leaving that as is. So that's what's been done to the control room PCB. And then last but not least, the Phono amp PCB. Not too much going on here. We've got a cluster of 4 2041 op amps. You can see the identical circuits here for these 4, and that's input and output op amps, or yeah, input output op amps for each of the stereo phono amp buses, but not going to be using the phono inputs on this, leaving those as is. Let's see, and then we have U7. Right there, it's a TL072. That's this one and U8. Those are both solo master for the solo in place solo bus, and so one's one channel, one's the other. That's not a critical monitoring. Those are fine as is, left those as they are. Then we come over to U9 and U5 and U6. And these all got the same treatment. Each of these, let's see, U9 is the monitor bus output driver. And this has polystyrene feedback caps, left those as is. And each of these, U9, U5, and U6, are all socketed, small value cog ceramic bypass caps, and each is fitted with an OPA 2134. Each had the feedback loop resistors replaced with metal film parts, replaced the original carbon film resistors. And unlike U9, U5 and U6 for the feedback loop caps were ceramic disc caps, and replaced those with cog ceramics. And U5 and U6, those are the monitor bus input amps and interstage. And then again, U9 is the output driver. So upgraded those simply because the headphone amp with those LM386 chips is noisy, and I'm thinking I may use the monitor bus output jacks to feed an external headphone amp at some point. So this is a more critical bus for the console operator. So those are the changes. And now that I have that documented, I'm going to slap it back together and see if I broke something.